Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to me talking about the 10 books that I read in April. If you don't have a fun little drink, grab a fun little drink because we're about to be yapping about some books. Today I have a vanilla lavender latte with soy milk, and she is delicious. This is my favorite like flavor combo in spring. If you haven't tried it, you should, because vanilla and lavender together, so good. But I obviously had a really good reading month. You can see the top of the stack here. 10 books is a lot of books, especially for someone who is in fact a college student. I just really like an escape from reality, so I tend to read a lot, and I'm only a full-time student. I do not have a job besides this right now, and so I have a lot of time on my hands. So I just want to set that little disclaimer because I remember watching wrap-ups when people would read more than like 6 books in a month. I would feel kind of crappy about myself because I did not understand how people read that fast. Here I am. I also listen to a lot of audiobooks. I don't know why I'm doing a full disclaimer right now. I do love audiobooks. If you are a college student or just someone who has a full-time job or just has things that they have to do instead of reading, I highly recommend audiobooks. So my little hack, if you guys care at all, is I like to listen to audiobooks while I'm reading the book. So I'll be kind of part reading it, part listening. I'll be in the car and I'll pick up the chapter that I left off on, and then I'll come home and read. So it's kind of just a buddy reading system, I guess you could call it. For audiobooks, Audible and Libby are 2 lifesavers. If you're wanting to get into audiobooks, I highly recommend either of those apps, especially Libby. Libby is incredible also because you're supporting your local libraries, because obviously those are struggling right now, so go get your library card. That's enough of the disclaimers. Let's get into the 10 books that I read in April. I'm looking at this stack. I think that this is my best reading month yet. Truthfully, I am excited to see what the next months bring because I don't know how something's going to top this. I read a lot of quality books, and I read a lot of books off of my physical TBR, so go me for that one. So the first book that I read this month was Play Along. This is the 4th book in the Windy City series. If you watched all of the books that I've read so far this year, it was kind of like a quarter wrap up because I didn't do any monthly wrap ups to that point. So if you haven't watched my like quarter wrap up, go check that out. But I did review this book in that video because reviewing the series as a whole, so I included this book. Same with the next book that you can see a little bit. So I'll just do a brief little review. And again, if you want to hear me talk about the other books I read this year, go check out that video. But like I said, this is the 4th book in the Windy City series. And the Windy City series is all interconnected standalones. And so the first book I didn't read, that is Mile High. Oops, I skipped it because a lot of people didn't like it. It's the first book in the interconnected standalone series. You can honestly skip it. I feel like I haven't missed out from skipping it, so whatever. But each and every book is about a specific sport and an athlete. So the first book centers around basketball, second book centers around baseball, this book centers around baseball, and the next one is hockey, and the first book is hockey as well. Anyways, so Play Along, I rated 4 stars. I think I'm pretty set on that. I was honestly kind of disappointed that I didn't like it as much as I thought I would. I wasn't disappointed in the book. I was disappointed that I didn't like it as much as everyone else did, because this is everyone's like favorite book in the series. I personally liked Caught Up, which is the 3rd book. This is one before this. It's about his brother. But this one I kind of just wasn't super obsessed with. I did still really like it, and I am excited for the next book. But I don't know. I don't really have too much to say about it. I also read this. I literally finished this on the 2nd of April or something like that, just at the very beginning of the month, so I honestly don't even remember that much about it. I do highly recommend this series. They're all on Kindle Unlimited. They're super easy romances. These are kind of palette cleansers between some of my heavier books. I did really like this, and I highly recommend the series. And then if you guys have been around recently, you know that I have a recent obsession with a specific fantasy series. The books are on the other side of the shelf, but this is the 4th book in the Ember and the Ashes series. The series just really snuck up on me. I was really trying to find a fantasy to be obsessed with because it's been so long since I've gotten like that feeling from a fantasy series. I think the last time I got this feeling with a fantasy series was with the Kindred Curse saga. With these books, you can't even see it. They're all on Kindle Unlimited. It's Spark of the Everflame, Glow of the Everflame, and Heat of the Everflame. That series was the first time that I had gotten a feeling similar to when I read Throne of Glass. Now, these books are not at all similar to Throne of Glass. It's the feelings that I got when I read Throne of Glass. Still, nothing will ever compare to my babies over here. You can't see them. Nothing will ever compare to Throne of Glass for me. I have been yearning for that feeling for a fantasy series for so long, and I feel like this series finally kind of like sparked it a little bit again. I don't know, I just really love this series. I know a lot of people don't really love it. I just think this series is so underrated. So underrated. I think that the world building is it's not complicated whatsoever. Like, it is so well described and thought out. It's not complicated, but it is complex. Like, I just really loved the like magic system, the different types of like immortal creatures, I guess you could say. I don't know, I just really enjoyed the otherworldly parts of it. I don't know how to describe that, like the inhuman parts of it. If you don't know, this is about Laia and Elias, and Laia ends up becoming a spy for the rebellion in the Empire. So she becomes a spy against the Empire for the rebellion. I don't know why that seems so complicated. She becomes a spy by being a slave for someone in the Empire. And then we have Elias, Empire. He is in the martial school to become like a soldier for the Empire. And so he's training to become what they call a mask. I'm telling you the premise of the first book. It gets very more complex further out. It's interesting to follow someone who is inside of the Empire, who is against the Empire, but is grown up in the Empire, to someone who has always hated the Empire. She is a scholar girl, and in this world the scholars are oppressed, heavily oppressed, and obviously the Empire are the ones ruling over them. It's interesting to follow a scholar versus someone who's training to become a mask. Do not go into the series expecting it to be a romantasy. Don't get me wrong, the romance and the relationships that we get in these books are so good, but they are a very small part of this book. It is heavily plot driven, very much a side plot of romance. I really just think that I read this series at the right time. I did not say the rating, but this is obviously a 5-star, like obviously a 5-star. I think that this series just found me at the right time, I guess. Anyways, I highly recommend this series. The series is not for everybody. I can understand why some people didn't like it. I just personally loved it, and I think that it is an incredibly underrated series, like incredibly underrated. Next, we have The Conditions of Will. If you watched my Reading Anticipated Releases reading vlog, you already know the gist about this book and how I feel about it. This is a 5-star. I seriously have not stopped thinking about this book since I read it. I just love Jessa's writing so much. I don't know if she's like a poet or something. She truly is the Shakespeare of her generation. That was a joke. Do not take that serious. But her writing is just so beautiful and poetic, and literally every single line in this book can be underlined. If you haven't read Magnolia Parks by her, you do not need to read that before reading this book. This is a standalone book. I honestly kind of recommend you to read this before reading Magnolia Parks, just because it is a standalone. It's not a full commitment of reading this giant series, and it just really introduces you into her writing and her style of her books, I guess you could say, because it's not a full romance. The stories do revolve around the romance, but it more so revolves around the different dynamics of relationships. I'd say that her books are more character studies rather than romance, but the romance is so good in her books. But you have to go in wanting the plot. Can't believe I'm comparing the two. Same thing with Ember and the Ashes. You can't go in wanting a romance, because although it is incredible, it is not the main part of the story. If you haven't watched my reading vlog, please go watch it, because I talked a lot about this book. But I just loved our female main character. She was so interesting to follow. And one thing about Jessa is the inner monologue of her characters are so entertaining. And I really love the toxicity of the family dynamics in this specific book. Sam Penny, guys. Yeah, I fear he's up there. I fear he's up there for Jessa Hastings' men. I think it goes Julian, Sam Penny. Yeah, I don't really know where I'd put the other ones, but Julian and Sam Penny are up there. Really love this book. If you cannot tell, please, for the love of everything, read this book. I feel like most people would love this book. I could literally yap about this book forever, so I'm gonna shut up, but please read this book. It is so good. And then we have Say You'll Remember Me. You know, this was also in that reading vlog, so go check that out if you want to see me read this book. But this book I'm giving a 3 stars, I think. I've been kind of conflicted with the rating, but I feel like a 3 stars is a pretty solid rating for this book. I did like this book, but there were a lot of things about this book that I didn't like, but it could partially be because I was disappointed with it, because Just for the Summer was one of my favorite books of last year. I absolutely loved it. Abby Jimenez has quickly become one of my most favorite romance authors, so I was very, very excited for this book, but it kind of let me down. And it could just be a me preference, because I've seen a lot of people who really, really love this book. So I'm not saying that it's a bad book, because it's not. Like, there's nothing wrong with the book. I just personally didn't like it. I am a hater of insta-love, and this is the definition of insta-love. And so that just kind of set me off on the wrong foot, if I'm being completely honest. Did love our MMC. He was so freaking sweet. He would drop everything for our female main character. Can't remember either of their names, if I'm being completely honest. I think it's Xavier and Samantha? Is her name Samantha? Yeah, Samantha. So Xavier and Samantha. I really, really loved Xavier, where Samantha's character kind of fell flat for me. I felt like her character lacked a lot of depth and I kind of just felt like Xavier was doing literally everything for the relationship to survive. The entire book, I was just wondering, how is this going to work? Like, I truly did not understand how the relationship was going to work. The big reason why Samantha has to move home after their first date, literally their first date, to help take care of her mom, because her mom has dementia, is a very, very big part of this book. Now, it is something that I love about Abby Jimenez's books, because it always deals with something deeper than just a regular romance in past books, but it was always focused around her main character and how she was dealing with the family stuff, not about the family stuff with the main characters being there. Like, I just felt like Samantha just didn't have any depth, if I'm being completely honest. But I did really love Xavier, so I think that's why it's still a 3-star and not lower. But I also feel like their relationship lacked a lot of depth. Like, I did not see a connection between the two, because it was lacking so much on Samantha's side. I don't know, like I said, this isn't a bad book. It's just a me thing. I just personally didn't really love it as much as I was hoping I would. I still think I recommend it, but I definitely recommend her other books a lot more. Yeah, guess who finally did it, guys? I need to pat myself on the back at this point. If you know, you freaking know. It has taken me so long to read this freaking book. Like I said, I got my library card, I downloaded Libby, and I put this audiobook on hold immediately as soon as I figured out the Libby app. And once it became available, I'm like, I have no choice, like, I have to read it. So I finally did, and man, am I glad that I started this book. I don't know why it took me so long to read it. It's actually crazy. I'm rating The Poppy War 4.25. I really, really loved this book. Honestly, it would have been a higher rating if it wasn't for the middle part, if I'm being completely honest, because I really, really loved the beginning. So the first part is Ren studying for this test, passing this test. She then goes to the school to train to become like a soldier, basically. It was very, very interesting following the academic journey of Ren, and then the middle part just kind of lulled for me a little bit. I was just flying through the first part, and so once we got to the second part, I kind of just realized that I wasn't feeling as motivated to read the book once I got to the middle part. And the last part was so fast-paced and so good. The ending was crazy. I really, really love the ending. When main characters are flawed and morally gray, dare I say. I've yet to continue the series, but I definitely will be continuing the series very soon. Just kind of had other things to read and do. It's a very heavy book. Now, she is kind of short. She is jam-packed, and I also love R.F. Kuang's writing. I like how to the point she is, while also being very good at describing and explaining things, being very to the point. Like, this is my ideal writing, if I'm being completely honest. I definitely want to read Babel after reading this, because this is my first R.F. Kuang book that I've read. But before I continue the series, I definitely want to watch some YouTube videos on the history that this is based off of, because this is very heavily based on real things that have happened, and so I really, really want to understand it more before I go into the next one. And that's something that I really liked about this book, because it opened up my eyes to a different culture and a different something that I don't know too much about. It made me feel uncomfortable with how uneducated I felt, I guess you could say, but I liked that. Like, I like that this book actually provoked me to think a little bit more, and I don't know, I just really, really loved it. Yeah, I really, really love this book, and I can see the future books being a 5-star possibly. And then on a completely different note, we have Big Borrower Steal. This book I was reading at the same time as Poppy War, something to kind of ease my mind a little bit, because like I said, that book was very, very heavy. So I was reading this at the same time whenever my brain wanted a little bit of a break. I had so much fun. This is a 4.5, and rating that a 4.25 and rating this a 4.5 is crazy, but it's based off of the genre. Because if every single genre was on the same grading scale, every single romance would be like a 3-star, because I personally love fantasies so much more than romances. So they're on completely different grading scales. So this is a 4.5. I just had so much fun. It was a fluffy little rom-com is the best way that I can think of it. Oh, arch nemesis. I hate saying enemies to lovers because it's a romance, okay. Main character's rivalry started in college. We're pursuing the same degree, we're taking the same classes, wanting to do the same thing. They just have this really funny relationship before, you know, the actual relationship, because they were writing emails to each other, just like talking about how annoyed they were at their presence and everything like that. Then some things happen and they end up being teachers at the same school, and then he moves into the house next to her. So they're neighbors and they share the same school. Forced proximity, yeah. They also are both writers, but neither of them know that they're both writers. And I really, really liked that plot line of this book. They just have really good banter. I highly, highly recommend this book now that we are in the summer months if you just want a fluffy little romance, because that's pretty much what this book gave, was a fluffy little romance. It was just so good. I really, really love this book. And then I read Renegades, finally. I've had this for as long as I've had Poppy War, because I got them on the same Barnes trip. So I've had this for over a year now. I finally read it. Listened to it. I listened to this book. Did listen to this book on audiobook. I kind of read some of it, listened to some of it like I explained before. I kind of just do it in tandem. This book is a 3-star. I do recommend it, but I was kind of disappointed with it. I don't know what I was expecting. I honestly didn't really have any expectations going into this. Like, I knew it was about superheroes, and I think I was expecting it to be more sci-fi than like dystopian, I guess you could say. I was expecting there to be like high-rise buildings and flying cars and all of this stuff, and it wasn't. It was like a normal, it was like the Avengers, basically. It wasn't the Avengers. Like, it didn't give the same vibe, but it was like in that world. Like, it's a modern world where there's superheroes. This book is about the Renegades, and it is a band of superheroes, basically. And they're like the law enforcement of the city, I think. There's like superhero prodigies that try out to be a part of the Renegades. Different branches to the Renegades, like law enforcement and everything like that. I do think that I would like this series when I read it at the right time. I'm taking a bit of a break because I'm going to read it when I'm in the mood for, like, when I'm in like a Marvel mood or an X-Men mood. Like I said, it is a modern setting with superheroes, not what I was expecting, because this cover just, I don't know why it made it seem like it was more sci-fi in my head. So it just felt really YA to me, but it was a super, super fun read, and that's crazy to say because she's thick, but I do think that I could really, really like the future books in this series. So I am excited to continue this series, and it is just kind of a palate cleanser, for being completely honest. Once I'm in the mood for something fun, I will definitely be picking up the next book. And then next we have our final 5-star of this month. I had 3 5-stars, which is crazy to me. That is Fearless by Lauren Roberts. I did film a reading vlog for this, and it was supposed to be out last week, but now it will be out after this video, so keep an eye out for that. It is going to be spoiler free, by the way, with the last section being spoiler thought. Anyways, like I said, this is a 5-star. Was it perfect? No. Did I love it? Absolutely. This rating is based off of vibes only. Do not judge this rating, because I know that, like I said, this book is flawed. It is not perfect. I understand why a lot of people didn't like it. I personally just had an incredible time reading it. I think I had the most fun out of any of these books reading this book. I don't know why. I got the same feeling I got when I first read Powerless, which is the first book in this series. I just felt so giddy when I was reading this book. I just had the best reading experience while I was reading this book. There's really nothing else about it. I love Kai. I love Peyton. Peyton did annoy me in this book, but I loved Kai. I loved him. And there were a few plot twists that happened in this book, but the one specific one that I'm talking about, which is the one controversial one that everyone is also talking about, I personally kind of liked it. It was kind of giving Star Wars just like a little bit. Like, there was just some elements, plot points there that were similar, but I just found it a lot of fun. A lot of people were upset and annoyed with how it happened, which is totally valid. I found it kind of fun. I just really love this book. There's an element in this book that was in the first book that I really, really missed and I really enjoyed in the first book. No idea that it was a part of this book. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet because I have a reading vlog coming out, but I just love this book. Next, we have A Fate Inked in Blood. This cover really irritates me because it's glossy, and so it just slides off like crazy. You're also gonna get blinded. Anyways, I actually read this book because I'm meeting the author next week for her book tour for the second book in the series, because one of my friends has read this and her other series and she asked me to go. I love going to author signings, and I obviously hadn't read any of her books, but I was like, I'll read it before we go. Sign me up. So I had no choice but to read this book, but I did have a fun time. This is a 3.75. I did listen to the audiobook of this one, and I really enjoyed the audiobook because they had like Scottish accents. It's a fantasy where they are Vikings, and this was my first Viking fantasy that I've read, and it was so much fun. Not tell you too much about the plot, if I'm being completely honest. All I know is that I had fun, and I really liked our two main characters. Like, I really liked them a lot. This just isn't a 4-star because I didn't feel connected to the characters necessarily, or the plot until the very end. Like, the plot twist at the end of this was very much could have seen from a mile away. I didn't guess it. I am excited for the next book. Highly recommend this and the audiobook. The audiobook was really good. Like I said, their Scottish accents. Yeah. And then last but certainly not least, okay, we have Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands. I honestly, this book was so good. It was so close to a 5-star. This is a 4.75. I ate this book up and listened to the audiobook of this one, because the audiobook is just so freaking good. The narrator for these audiobooks, I love her. I love our narrator so much, and these books are just so whimsical, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, this is the coziest of cozy fantasies. Are they boring? Yeah, because it's not high stakes. There's not that much happening. Now, this book was a little bit more high stakes than the last one, but it is just so cozy. She's literally just studying different fairies and different fairy lands. She studies at Cambridge. This book has the ultimate ambiance. It is so freaking good. Like I said, a lot of people find this series boring, which is totally valid. The first book kind of boring. Really like the scenery and the quirkiness of our main characters. So although I did find the book a little bit boring, I did really like that aspect of it. So I was very excited to go into this one. This one did not disappoint. I loved it so freaking much. It's so much more than the first one because the plot thickens a lot in this one, and I cannot wait to read the next one. Cannot wait. I am not letting myself buy books right now. We shall see how that holds up, but I really want the third book in the series. I'm just holding off for a little bit. The first book is her literally writing an encyclopedia of fairies. So she is studying fairies. She's going to a village to study these different types of creatures and fairies, and just, it is just so cozy. It gives this. Like, this book, these books give that. So I just highly recommend this series. Again, if you are just in the mood for some low stakes cozy fantasy. And if you like audiobooks, the audiobooks are so freaking good. That is all 10 books that I read in April. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me yap about those books. If you guys stayed till the end, I love you. Thank you guys so much for watching. And let me know what your favorite book that you read in April was, and your opinions of these books, and if you've read any of these books. As always, if you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.